You know what's wild? Bruce Springsteen, this guy from New Jersey who sings about factories and highways, he's worth like $500 million now. But here's the thing that gets me. He's still singing about being broke, still screaming about working class struggles, still channeling this desperate, beautiful hunger that defined another legend from 100 years ago, a legend most people have completely forgotten. And that's what I want to talk about today, because Bruce Springsteen isn't just a musician. He's the latest voice in a story that's been screaming across America for over a century. A story about what happens when regular people refuse to disappear. Let me take you back to 1915, November 19th, Utah. There's this Swedish immigrant standing in front of a firing squad. His name is Joe Hill, and in about 30 seconds, 5 bullets are going to tear through his chest. He's a songwriter, a labor organizer, and honestly, kind of a nobody. But as they tie the target over his heart, and this actually happened, he looks at the firing squad and says, "Fire! Go on and fire!" Those were his last words. But here's where it gets strange. Joe Hill didn't die. I mean, yeah, his body died. But 3 days before his execution, he'd written a telegram. Now bear with me here because this is going to connect, I promise. He wrote, "Don't mourn for me, boys. Organize." And they did. They sang his songs. They told his stories. Within a year, thousands of workers across America were chanting his name. Joe Hill became more powerful dead than he ever was alive. He became a ghost that haunted every factory floor, every coal mine, every place where people were breaking their backs for pennies. Now, you might be thinking, okay, cool history lesson, but what does this have to do with the boss? Everything. It has everything to do with it. See, what Joe Hill figured out, and what Bruce Springsteen understood 70 years later, is that we're all terrified of the same thing. Not death, not poverty, not even failure. We're terrified of being forgotten, of working our whole lives and having it mean nothing, of our struggles, our pain, our little victories just evaporating into silence. That's the core of it right there. That's what connects these two men across a century. Joe Hill wrote songs like "The Preacher and the Slave" and "There is Power in a Union." These simple, catchy tunes that coal miners and factory workers could sing while they worked. He wasn't trying to write symphonies. He was writing anthems for people whose society had written off as disposable. He was saying, your story matters. Your exhaustion matters. The calluses on your hands matter. Fast forward to 1975. There's this scraggly 25-year-old playing dive bars in New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen. And he's watching his friends, guys he grew up with, getting chewed up by the same meat grinder that was grinding up workers in Joe Hill's time. Different century, same desperation. The factories are still there, the dreams are still dying, the system is still rigged. And Bruce does exactly what Joe Hill did. He turns that pain into poetry. Born to Run isn't just about cars and girls, though it's definitely about that too, don't get me wrong. It's about escape. It's about that suffocating feeling that if you don't break out now, you're going to be trapped forever. Tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. That's not romantic, that's survival. That's the same desperation that made workers in 1915 risk their lives to strike, knowing they could be beaten or killed. But here's what really gets me, and this is where the story gets its teeth. Joe Hill was convicted of murder. Maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. The evidence was sketchy at best. But you know what sealed his fate? He was organizing workers. He was making noise. He was making the powerful uncomfortable. And in 1915 America, that was unforgivable. The trial was a sham. Everyone knew it. Even the Swedish government tried to intervene. Didn't matter. They wanted him silent. Bruce Springsteen talks about this exact same thing in Born in the USA, which, by the way, is not a patriotic anthem. It's a protest song, but that's another tangent. He sings about a Vietnam vet who comes home to nothing, invisible, disposable. The system used him up and spit him out. That's the pattern, you see. Every generation thinks they're the first to feel this way. But we're all singing variations of the same song Joe Hill wrote in 1915. We're all fighting the same fight. We're all terrified that our lives won't matter. And here's the beautiful, tragic, hopeful part. The night before Joe Hill was executed, 30,000 people rallied for him in Chicago. Songs were written, protests erupted across the country. His funeral in Chicago drew thousands. His ashes were distributed to union organizers in every state except Utah. He didn't want to be caught dead there, he said. Those ashes became relics, symbols, proof that one person's voice could echo forever. When Bruce Springsteen releases The Ghost of Tom Joad in 1995, 80 years after Joe Hill's execution, he's literally singing about ghosts, about voices from the past that refuse to stay buried. Tom Joad, the character from Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, says, "Wherever there's a cop beating a guy, I'll be there. I'll be in the way kids laugh when they're hungry and they know supper's ready." That's Joe Hill's telegram made flesh. Don't mourn for me, organize. That's why we keep telling these stories. That's why a Swedish immigrant's execution in 1915 still matters. That's why a rock star from Jersey is still selling out stadiums singing about factory closures. Because we need to know we're not alone. We need to know our struggles aren't new. We need to know that people fought before us, bled before us, sang before us, and they're still singing through us. Joan Baez recorded "I Dreamed I Saw Joe Hill Last Night" in the 1960s. Bruce Springsteen is still performing "The Ghost of Tom Joad" in 2025. Same song, different voice, same refusal to be forgotten. And that's what makes this so powerful, so necessary. We think of history as this dead thing, dates and names in a textbook. But history is alive. It's in every Springsteen lyric about assembly lines and broken dreams. It's in every young person right now feeling like the system is rigged against them. Because it is, it was in 1915, it was in 1975, and it still is. But here's what Joe Hill and Bruce Springsteen both understood. The system only wins if we're silent. If we stop singing, if we stop organizing, if we stop believing that our stories matter. Before they shot Joe Hill, he wrote one more thing. He wrote, "My will is easy to decide, for there is nothing to divide. My kin don't need to fuss and moan. Moss does not cling to a rolling stone." He had nothing, just his songs, just his story, just his refusal to shut up. Springsteen has everything, money, fame, legacy, but he's still out there, still singing the same songs about nobodies and dreamers and people the world would rather forget. That's the human desire we're talking about here. Not wealth, not fame, not even success. We want to matter. We want our pain acknowledged. We want someone to sing our songs after we're gone. Joe Hill got 5 bullets for that dream. Springsteen got the Medal of Freedom. But they're both doing the same thing, keeping the voices alive, making sure nobody gets forgotten, making sure the ghosts keep singing. And 100 years from now, someone else will pick up that same guitar, write that same song, tell that same story. Because we'll still be running. We'll still be fighting. We'll still be refusing to disappear. So, if this story got to you, if it made you think about your own struggles, your own dreams, your own fear of being forgotten, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, because we're going to keep telling these stories, keep connecting past and present, keep proving that nothing is really new, except everything is always urgent, always now, always screaming to be remembered. Don't mourn, organize, keep singing, stay loud. That's what Joe Hill would say, that's what the boss is still saying, and that's what we all need to hear.